Hello, and welcome to the Franchise Life. I am your host, Stacie Shannon. Today, we have a fun and fresh brand with us that we're featuring called Capital Tacos. And Capital Tacos is headquartered out of Florida. And with me, I have one of the co-founders who is Josh Luger. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, did I pronounce your last name right?
You did. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. So I am excited to have this brand in our portfolio of brands within IFPG. We don't get many food and beverage brands that offer multiple business models and, are really at a good investment price point. So before we dive into Capital Tacos, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and what your story is leading up to this new franchise system?
Sure, absolutely. Started my career in finance and investment banking, and got a really good kind of introduction into the world of business and how to kind of look at different businesses and different business models. um, you know, I like to say investment banking or finance is a great kind of introduction into the world of business. And then once you do it for a few years, you're kind of faced with the decision, I'd say, of do you want to keep going down that path, or do you want to kind of take that application and go into the business world? So for me, it was a very clear answer. I wanted to kind of use those tools and that background knowledge, but always wanted to kind of go into the direction of business operating and being in business myself. And so after that, I took a few different jobs, kind of worked in corporate development at a media company, for a gentleman named Robert Albritton, who owned a bunch of media properties in Washington, D.C., sold off a bunch of local TV channels. He founded Politico, and I was there during the years where that got built up. That eventually got exited for $1 billion. The TV channel sold to Sinclair Broadcast Group for $985 million. So, I was in corporate development there and business development, and really trying to help grow businesses and understand what kind of drives growth in business from the inception all the way up to the growth stages and all the way to kind of exiting. And so that was a great experience. And then I kind of wanted to get my hands a little bit dirtier. So I started going into more of the startup world, worked for a few media startups, really, again, business development, marketing side. So, kind of got out of the corporate suite and got out of the suit and really started getting my hands a little bit dirtier, building, business units from scratch. Worked for companies such as Business Insider, which eventually sold to a German media company, Axel Springer, for close to $400 million. And so it helped found and be part of, different respects, a lot of successful businesses in the kind of the media world. And then, my last job in kind of the startup world, I met a gentleman named James Marcus, who's now my partner in Capital Tacos, and he's also a serial entrepreneur. One of the things I started doing on the side was doing a New York City dining newsletter, so kind of taking my media background and my passion for food and kind of channeling it that way. James had the experience of owning a bottling company as one of the various things he was involved with. He likes to say he invented the first ever ghost kitchen back in college. He founded something called Underground Chicken, where he got kind of leftover chicken from the cafeteria to get them to give it to him for a very low price, rented a basement space with some fryers, hired a few delivery people, and had a business there during college. So both of us had, same kind of background, started in finance, had gone off on our own and done some entrepreneurial things, but always had been tangentially involved or had involvement with the food and beverage space, but really where we had a passion. So we got together and we said, we wanted to kind of do something in the food and beverage space and really, the goal was to do something kind of special and something that ultimately could be scalable down the road and something that business opportunity we could share with a lot of folks. And so, Capital Tacos came about, as something that, going back 10 years ago, one of the things that still excites me about Tex-Mex, but back 10 years ago, we viewed it as completely wide open. Right? So you think about the burger category, there's a lot of brands we can name that have been around a long time. You look at Tex-Mex, I really think, one side you see Taco Bell, on the other side you see Chipotle. And we just thought there's a ton of space in the middle for something that's doing something that's, Tex-Mex, a little bit different than that, high quality. And so kind of Capital Tacos came about that way. There's a gentleman who started it and we kind of teamed up with him about a year into it. And we kind of immersed ourselves in the food and beverage space. we knew there was a great product there, but before we kind of really wanted to put the gas on real growth, whether it's corporate stores inside our home market or eventually where we're at now with franchising, we, went to hundreds and hundreds of fast casual restaurants across the country, read hundreds of books, studied financial reports, went to, we spent days in Texas where we go to 40 or 50 taco shops, really understand what made us unique in the space, where people succeed in fast casual, what were business models that were working, but also really learn and bring our own kind of thoughts to bear and our own experience of how can you do things a little bit differently. And I think it's one of the benefits of not being a lifer in the space of food and beverage is we had an outsider's perspective, and we were able to bring that into the food and beverage space and come up with a bit of a unique business model and a little bit of a unique product. So that's kind of the backstory and how we got here. And, we got involved in Capital Tacos around 2015. So it's been 7 or 8 years right now. And we've been building up the company to the point where we launched franchising last year, opened our first franchise last year, have sold a few more, and now talking to a lot more folks about growing that. So that's kind of my background and history and what led me to Capital Tacos.
Wow. I love how your background, it lends itself so nicely because when I talk to individuals who want to make the jump into business ownership, they're like, well, I don't have the background or, I've never been a business owner, but clearly it was all those skill sets that you honed working in the corporate world and for different individuals that have led to your success today as a business owner and now as a franchisor. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, look, everyone I think has a unique skill set and no one has every skill in the world. And so, going into business, you really, you need to be, I think, recognize what your skills are, what you need to supplement and complement them with, and be ready to take that plunge. And so I think certain folks, once they start thinking about going into the business world, you kind of already know it's probably right for you. It's really a question of how you set yourself up for success, who you work with, who you lean on. And so, once you get that bug, once you start asking that question, it's really about jumping in and figuring out how to jump in and where and who you look to for help as you do that.
No, that's a great point. So based upon visiting hundreds of Tex-Mex restaurants, you must be a connoisseur because that's a heck of a lot of eating.
Yeah, I have to say
wow, that's a lot of food.
That's the tough part of the job for sure. But we had a very simple test. So we were out in Texas and we go to dozens of spots a day. We'd want to, take pictures of every menu, order everything. And then the bar we had is if we wanted to take a second bite of something, we knew there was something special there, right? Normally you're just taking one bite out of a taco. You think I get it, but man, if you want to take a second bite, that's how you know, hey, this place is doing something special.
I like it. Awesome. All right. So you mentioned, today where you stand is you have 7 corporate locations that are up and running. 6 more are soon to be opening in the next few months. And those are even outside of the Florida demographic. And you have 3 franchisees.
That's correct.
So what has your experience been like to date learning about the franchise world? Because running corporate locations is a whole different animal than being a franchisor and offering that opportunity up to other individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly there's an overlap. You're serving, it's Capital Tacos Foods, Capital Tacos brand, but in many ways, as you said, they're entirely different businesses. And, we knew what we wanted to do is, before we franchise, we had to prove the scalability of the model ourselves. We had to work through, the tech stack, operational guides and manuals, prove out that we could have multiple locations that are successful, go to a secondary market and prove out we could be successful there. So we did all those things. And so, looking out to the franchising world, certainly what we knew going in, what excited us about it was, working with other entrepreneurs, other business people. At our core, that's who James and I are. It excites us to work with folks who are similar minded, right? But obviously, as you said, in a lot of ways, it's a learning experience. And that's what we really pitch. We talk to our franchisees. We truly view you as partners. You obviously have a lot to learn from us. That's kind of why you're buying into our system, but we also have a ton to learn from them. So our first franchisee is a gentleman or a couple named Bill and Alicia Hoops. They have 2 other partners, but Bill and Alicia are the operating partners. And, they're just fabulous people. They are Bill was in the Navy for 16 years. Him and his wife are former school teachers in the community. So, working with them has been an amazing experience, right? And we learned a ton from them, right, in terms of how they ingrain themselves in the community, how they market themselves. I mean, Bill has another business. It's, he has the largest girls softball tournament league in the Southeast. So he has an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So he's pushing us all the time on how can we do more? How can we, what innovative things we can do? And so it's really, and that's how we view these relationships. And one of the exciting things has been is that we're learning a lot every day, right? We have a lot to give franchisees, but we want franchisees in our system to know that we view them as thought partners. We truly feel what's going to make us successful, what has made us successful and will make us successful as we grow, is bringing all the benefits of being a big company, whether it's best in class tech stack, best in class food, a known brand that consistently gets, more and more coverage and press and buzz, and people get excited when you come to a market. But you get the best of that, but also the best of staying local, right? We want folks that are leaders in their community who know what their community needs most, right? So our goal is to be an asset to the community. So we work backwards and say, hey, we don't live in your community. So whether it's Loveland, Colorado, we're opening soon, or Trinity, Florida, the franchisees live there, they're operating there. So we're going to give you tried and true marketing tactics that have worked for us, but we're also going to tell you, be upfront with, we don't know every single thing that makes your community tick. And part of the way you're going to ingratiate yourself in community, you might have the best brand, the best food, but we want you to tell us, hey, these are some ideas that you have to make the product more localized, to make the marketing more localized, to be more effective in your community. So with that kind of mindset, we're absolutely learning things from franchisees every day. We want them to pitch their ideas of a food product that may work in their town, that will work through our R&D kitchen, or a marketing tactic that may work. And so generally speaking, it's super exciting for us as business people to be working with other business people who have that passion, have that desire, never want to give up, no matter how well they're doing. They want to do better. They want to think about the next thing. And it's energizing. It's invigorating. So obviously, you got to manage franchisees. You got to make sure you kind of funnel those ideas and funnel them in an appropriate way. And so that experience of operating as a franchisor has certainly, as you said, been a learning experience, very different than opening corporate stores, but it's been something that we thoroughly enjoy working with folks, and I've definitely learned a lot along the way so far.
Yeah, a couple things that you said that made a huge impression on me is, one, that you guys tested out everything, the replicatability of the business model, because so many times I see emerging brands come to market and may not even have one corporate location, or just have one. And that's risky for somebody, to invest in, because they haven't proven out that replicatability. So, remarkable for you guys. But then also the other thing was the fact that you recognize that each location has a different culture, although the essence of the brand remains the same, that you are willing to work with those individual business owners and see them as thought leaders and so forth, to bring back feedback. And that's something where, I said this recently, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And that's really the beauty of the franchise model. So let's dive into, what really captured, not having had the pleasure of tasting the food yet. One thing that really appeals to me is that you have 3 different business models. So can you kind of just break down those different models and share if, when you get to like the food truck one, can somebody do that only without a storefront?
Yeah, absolutely. So, working backwards, and just working down to how we develop those business models. So one of the things that's been in our DNA, and I said, taking a little bit unique coming from outside the food and beverage world, one of the questions we had was, why does everyone pay $1 million to open a restaurant? Do you really need $1 million to open a restaurant? And the answer we found is no. So what we've had success doing is going into second generation restaurants. So those are restaurants that have already been built out, already been operating as restaurants, that for whatever reason, the prior operator has failed. So it could have been a mom and pop that, just didn't succeed and took the risk and, bites the bullet like 90% of first-time restaurateurs do. Could be a chain that a certain franchisee couldn't make it work or decided to pull the plug. It could be, a big corporate company that decided, hey, we want to move 2 blocks down the road. So a lot of our locations are former Five Guys locations. I'm sitting in right now our Winter Park location in Orlando is a former Moe's location. from day one, we've been able to succeed in second generation restaurants where others have, for whatever reason, either failed or decided to move to a separate location. So what that does, it allows us to open restaurants in a range that's a fraction of the cost of what any other franchise or corporate store of any other concept that I know of can open. Our range that we say is anywhere from, depending on the condition of the space and some certain, design choices you may make, anywhere from 250,000 to the high threes, you can get fully open, right? Fully, as we have to say, capitalize the space. So all the design, the look and feel, the paint, it looks like a Capital Tacos. We put our bright lights out front. And so the starting point and the core business model that we have for one of the three that you mentioned is a brick and mortar business model, traditional store, but building it for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time, right? So that's the other thing right now with, construction costs, construction delays, permitting delays. The day you might sign a franchisee agreement to finding a location, building a location. If you're another concept, that could easily take you 18 months, if not more. And, your cost range, you have no idea what it could be because, building costs fluctuate between 12 and 18 months in the future. So our model, the core brick and mortar business model, is look for second generation restaurants. We specialize in being able to find them. We have networks of brokers and we know what to look for. And we have relationships with different landlords. And so, you got to look for them, you got to hunt for them, but we help franchisees do that. We help them negotiate the leases. And so that's the core brick and model business model for us, is you could open for a fraction of the cost of it, really any other restaurant out there, and a fraction of the time to get open. So Bill, for example, signed his franchise agreement, I think in April or May of last year. He was open by November. So, that's a pretty quick turnaround. So that's the core, and it's important to us, right? It's not only important to us because, obviously any dollar saved is a dollar saved and a dollar earned. But when you think about our concept, you think about who we want to make ourselves available to, and this filters through all three of our business models, is we purposely wanted to make this offering approachable to folks who are going to be owner operators. We did not want an offering out there to be exclusive. Look, you got to be a millionaire already to access our concept. That's not who we want to talk to, right? If you're interested, of course, and you have an operating partner, not to say we're not going to talk to people that have that net income, but even those people, probably prefer to open a business for a quarter of the cost if they can, right? But we didn't want to exclusively make ourselves available to those folks. In fact, what we wanted to make ourselves available to are people who have worked their way up in various industries, including potential the food and beverage industry, who have saved up a nice amount of money, but potentially not $1 million, are going to access that amount of money through SBA lending. It's much more reasonable. And make it accessible, right? Make it accessible to people who are going to be operators, who are going to be in the store, who are going to work hard, who are going to care about our brand, and really representing it locally, right? So it was very important for us to make sure that this opportunity is being shared with the right people and making it open and accessible to people. And that's key fundamental principle that we brought into our franchising business model. So that's the brick and mortar. That's 1/3 of the model. But then we said from there, look, there are other ways to be successful. And some people don't even have the 250 or 350 or don't want to invest that much before they see some success. And so what we've also made available is models that, to your question, do not require brick and mortar capital to start. So the second tier is you could have a permanent trailer location. So one of the locations that we have up in Brooksville, Florida, is a trailer that we built under $200,000. We go to landlords there who have big shopping centers, and there are a lot of them across Florida and across the country where they have a lot of empty space. And we go right on the road. We put our trailer up there. We pay basically a very, low rent, which is incremental income for a landlord. That's, not income that they're typically having. Someone say, hey, let me plop up in the middle of, take 5 of your parking spots when you have 500, get incremental revenue from there. And we've made it a self-sufficient trailer that is doing quite well. And so the benefit of that is not only a lower entry point, but you operate it with a much smaller team. In fact, if you're ambitious enough, you could be kind of a solo operator. Our tech allows for, an iPad to kind of take all the orders and you can make them. I mean, so you might have a team from anywhere from 0 additional people to 2 or 3. So it allows, a lower cost of entry, allows a much lower fixed rent that you have to deal with every month, much smaller team to build. And so one of the paths is you could start there. You can be perfectly happy with that, or you can use the profits from that and hopefully work your way up to a brick and mortar. And then a third tier that we have is kind of even more accessible than that. We call it an event trailer. So something that is built to move, not necessarily being a fixed location. It's even smaller than the permanent trailer location. And that's something that we've seen a ton of success with. Again, Bill, our first franchisee, has an event trailer, and he goes all around Tampa and outside of Tampa. There's tons of events where people want high quality tacos. We do everything from tacos, nachos, great, unique, handcrafted desserts. Whether it's Teacher Appreciation Week, which is coming down here in Florida next week, and you show up and serve all the teachers, or a wedding or a 4-day festival with tens of thousands of people. You can go out there. We'll help you find what event, how to basically market yourself and find those events. And that is an entry point that's, under 6 figures, right? And so the idea is that we want to make this successful, give people multiple entry points. If you want to do just one of them, we're happy to support you. And we think you could build a thriving business off of that. Another benefit of being the event trailers doesn't even have to be a full-time engagement. If you want to have the trailer, work it on nights and weekends while you have another job, you could keep your income coming in, and this is supplemental, right? And so these are access points to either supplement income or start building your own capital tacos empire, but work your way up. And if someone's comfortable with a lower level of investment, fine, go for that, right? And so it was really important to us in general to have an accessible business model and not have entry points that leave a lot of people out that we want to talk to. But even within that, we want to have multiple entry points and say, look, wherever you want to start, wherever you're comfortable with starting, we're happy to help you start there and work your way up if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a big differentiator for you as well, because there are other brands out there that have a storefront and then offer like an event trailer type concept, but the ones I'm aware of are tied to having a brick and mortar location. So it does not allow for the investment at the lower levels, of entry to be in just an event trailer owner or your static location in, like you said, the mall space. So the total investment range for those models that we just discussed is pretty much between 129,000 and 427 at the high end. So that really encompasses that wide range of the 3 business models. Okay, so in your marketing, you say you're a scratch kitchen, and this is something I've always really wanted to better understand. I mean, to me, it means, it's fresh food, it's locally sourced perhaps, but what does scratch kitchen mean?
So it's a great question. And it's especially a great question in this day and age because I won't name any concepts out there, but you have concepts where maybe 100% of the food or 90% of the food they're using, it's like frozen, comes in bags, and people use like hands to like drop it from a bag to a fryer, and they'll say their food is handcrafted, right? So we're living in a time where everyone's calling their food fresh. Everyone's saying their food is handcrafted. People are very liberal. There's a lot of white noise out there, let's say, right? People are very liberal with talking about their food being fresh or high quality. So I got to talk to what it means for us. So for us, when we say a true scratch kitchen, what it means is we make everything from scratch in-house every single day in our restaurant. So let's say before the sun is up, before you're out commuting to work, we're in our kitchens prepping for the day. So prep for us starts at 6:30 or 7 in the morning. We have dozens of homemade recipes, dozens of ingredients. We work with 12 different proteins in-house. We are butterflying the chicken. We're braising, we're marinating, we're doing all sorts of things. So we serve everything from steak to chicken to chorizo to fried fish to grilled shrimp, fried shrimp, right? So all of our proteins are being cut in-house, cooked in-house every day, marinated in original marinades that we make in-house, making our own sauces, making our own toppings. And so we have a chef-created menu. When you come in, it's not come down the line and say, hey, I want put some sour cream cheese on this. No, we have what we call chef-created flavor profiles. There's, a protein or 2 proteins on each one, 6 or 7 unique toppings that we all make in-house. And so what it truly means is like for us, like fresh is like, check the box number 1, high quality ingredients is number 1. But what it really means is we're doing the work in the kitchen. Things aren't like coming in bags that we then just drop in a fryer. I mean, everything you get is a result of multi-layered original recipes that are being actually executed in our stores every single day. And so that's what a scratch kitchen means for us. And we extend that to we actually grill items to order. And so when you come in, we have open kitchens. Every one of our restaurants has an open kitchen. You see it. I'm not just saying it, we're showing it to you. The show is there. You get the show as well as the food. You order it, we're firing it up on the grill. And so you're seeing it come to life that way. And so that's what it means for us. And so for us, we have dozens of homemade recipes, dozens of homemade ingredients. We're working in the kitchen all day, every day, to deliver, the unique taste and food that we do. And so the important thing is that what we've done is really made it so in a way where there's not a single step in a recipe that is extraneous, that doesn't need to be there. There's not a single ingredient that doesn't need to be there. So a lot of the questions we get is, that sounds great. I love the idea of delivering like the absolute best, most inventive Tex-Mex out there, but I'm not a lifelong restaurateur. Is it going to be too hard for me? Well, I point back to our first franchisee, Bill. I mean, he had experience as a teenager working at McDonald's, but not much more than that. So really no restaurant experience, true restaurant experience operating a restaurant. And he's, within 60 to 90 days, he was able to, there's no support from corporate anymore. He went through a training program, but he basically taught himself. So nothing we do is rocket science. It does take some work. You got to be in the kitchen to do the work. We're not just shipping stuff to franchisees and saying, here, open up the bag and drop it in. There is work involved, but there's work you could train yourself to do. And we could obviously help you do that. And you can get to an expert level in that relatively soon. And the value you get from doing that work pays off tenfold in terms of what you're able to deliver to customers and, how unique it is maybe compared to other people who might be saying their food is fresh. Well, put our food from a true scratch kitchen up against quote unquote simply fresh food, you're going to taste the difference. You're going to see the difference. And so that's what scratch kitchen means to us.
Awesome. So given that, what does your employee landscape look like for, let's say, a brick and mortar location?
Yeah. So, like I say, the one variable kind of depends on, how many full-time folks you have versus maybe younger folks who are looking for part-time hours. But generally speaking, probably need about 15 employees per store. You like to have, obviously for franchisees, the question of how much time they're going to be spending in their own store. How many operating partners are there? Are you serving as the GM or assistant manager? Are you hiring managers? But roughly speaking, in terms of team members, we like to say, 15 is a good rough number. You might be able to do a little bit less if, everyone's there full time, a little bit more if you have some more part-timers. So, you need some people, but you don't need an army to execute what we do.
All right. So what I would like to touch on now is that you had mentioned technology at one point, and where I think it was in the event trailer model where the individual can go ahead and put in their order on, say, like an iPad or something. So what is the technology package comprised of?
Yeah. So, again, it works back to the principle of, we want our franchisees, our operators to be able to focus on operating, right? So we want the technology to work for them and make their lives as easy as possible. And on the flip side, the same thing, what consumers are demanding right now is convenience, right? They want to be able to order as simply and conveniently, as anywhere else. And so from our standpoint, we've invested in best-in-class technology for every one of those three options that you talked about. So for our brick and mortar stores, we have top-of-the-line online ordering system. We work with the leading online ordering company in restaurants called Olo. We have another company that has an overlay that does our app. It also makes the Olo interface for online ordering look better, called Koala. We use Punch, which is the leading kind of rewards program in the restaurant space. And so if you go online and use our website or our app to order, you're going to see experiences up there with the biggest brands. And from an operational standpoint, all the orders, whether it's from Uber, DoorDash, our website or app, come straight through the kitchen to a customized kitchen display system. We have a customized point of sale program. All the orders flow to one place, makes it very easy. If you came in tomorrow, you'd be able to make tacos because it tells you exactly what to put on, what the proportions are. So again, it makes it very easy for customers on the consumer facing side, and from a kitchen side, operating side, makes it very easy to execute. And those are all systems that we've either custom developed or worked with, leading partners to build out our menu and integrate them with the point of sale system. So that's the brick and mortar. As you go to the trailers, we have a different point of sale system that's specifically, geared towards trailers, where it still allows for online ordering. But it basically allows you to kind of come up. You could choose to take orders yourself, or you could set up kind of a self-service kind of tablet there, where someone can look at the menu, place their own orders. They put in their phone number, and literally talk about a trailer where you gotta go kind of wait outside. It then texts you when your order's ready. So if you're waiting in your car, or you're shopping, next door, you come and get it, right? And if you're at a big festival, right, and you might place an order, it might take a few minutes to come out. You might go to the next trailer down and get something else while you're waiting for this food. It'll text you when your order's ready. So again, from a customer standpoint, every one of our models allows for the most convenient possible way to order. And from an operator's perspective, it allows you to focus on operating and have the technology work for you.
Very nice. So on a last note, let's touch on the unit economics. So we have to tread lightly here. We have to stick with what's in the franchise disclosure document, but pretty impressive unit economics. So what you reflect is a brick and mortar around average revenue is around almost 1.5 million, correct? And then gross profit of around 600,000. And that's based on 2022 numbers, it'd be based on 2022 numbers. And then your static trailer is 332,000 in annual revenue, and then 115 in pre-tax profits. So those are pretty some. And I mean, the static trailers, the event trailers, that is purely going to be based upon how much those individuals are working those trailers, right? I mean, that's the hours based upon those is going to be discretionary in those instances where the brick and mortar, you have standard business hours.
Yeah. So, the numbers you quoted from FTD or from the FTD, don't let those numbers speak for themselves. So the answer is yes. I mean, we have standard hours, for our brick and mortar, 11 to 9. That being said, we believe in also being modular. So, those numbers reflect 11 to 9 operating hours in our current units. But, we're talking right now with franchisees about potentially if someone's like, I'm comfortable, can I launch breakfast catering? Can I launch a breakfast program? We have a breakfast menu that's sitting in our POS. From a corporate level, we prep a lot in the morning. And so we have a lot going on. We do a lot of off premises. And so for our corporate stores, we said, we don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze there from an operational perspective. But again, franchisees are always looking to push the button. So we're willing to say, we'll work with you. We got a breakfast menu there. You want to extend your hours, you can go for it. We obviously work with you on that. We also can do certain towns are good for late night. So we're testing that on one of our corporate stores now. So the numbers you read reflect, standard 11 to 9 hours, but there's definitely the potential down the road, I'd say, to both lengthen it in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, late night. Permanent trailers are somewhat similar in that, there are suggested standard hours, but certainly you could choose to extend them. Obviously, with a trailer that is not a full store, the traffic patterns tend to be there. You probably want to close a little bit earlier. There's a little bit of a later, not as much of a late dinner rush. That being said, if you turn on third-party delivery or in a certain area where there is a lot of late night traffic for some reason, or there might be bars nearby, people are coming out, you might want to extend those hours, right? So the numbers you have there reflect kind of an 11 to 7 setup, but we're happy to work with franchisees to say, hey, I want to extend those hours, work late night, or you think breakfast could work for me? We'll definitely work with them to kind of figure that out if that's what they want to test. And then the event trailer, you're exactly right, which is that is entirely going to be focused on how many, how hard do you go out and find events? How many events do you do? As I said, that could be something where you're doing it full time or you're looking for events every day of the week. You could be going to, serve at a school on a Monday afternoon and then go to an apartment complex and serve maybe only 30 people at night, but that's another, $400 or $500 in revenue. And do that 5 nights a week and then do festivals on the weekend if you could find them and book them. Or you might say, look, I'm only going to do nights and weekends. And so the event trailer itself is a lot more flexible. It's built for that flexibility so that you could be as aggressive with it as you may want or not want to be. But obviously, to the extent you're spending more time and doing more events, that's going to mean more revenue and profit for you.
All right. Well, Josh, my last question for you is, when are we going to get a Capital Tacos in Palm Beach County?
No matter when someone asks me that, no matter where, I've said hopefully sooner rather than later. But we are opening soon in Tamarack, Florida, which is a little bit of a drive, but hopefully worth the drive. So we'll hopefully see you there soon. But that'll be our first South Florida location. So our hope is when we plant flags in different areas, really think about it as planting seeds, both from either corporate, but hopefully also a franchisee perspective where folks might come. Now there's a store they can travel to from Palm Beach and test it out. So if you're someone who's interested from that area, you don't necessarily have to travel to Tampa or Florida. It is just a drive. You can test it out, see what it's like. And we hope that that's going to kind of help drive interest across all of South Florida. So as I said, hopefully sooner rather than later, but time will tell.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, thank you so much for sharing your story and diving into the Capital Tacos franchise opportunity. I'm excited to watch this one grow, and I'm sure it will grow quickly. So with that said, for anybody that is interested in learning more about Capital Tacos, please feel free to reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks and have a great day.